Chris Landry. This is a guy who knows his stuff, has his own scouting consulting firm, LandryFootball.com. Director also of the NFL Combine. Chris, a man of much distinction, welcome to the program.
You have people more and more today that are not good people running organizations. You guys had one in Mike Tannenbaum that knows very little about football. He's an attorney and cap guy, but when you have a guy like that gets involved, then maybe he listens to people, but you can have guys like that screw it up big time.
The only way to get your morning started is with Defo, joined by Lubie, right here on The Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show. Great to be with you here. The Defo Show, South Florida Live. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubitz. It's always a pleasure for us, and he was a recent guest on the program. And back by popular demand, the fans always go crazy when we announce his appearance here on the show, and you can follow his work, and it really is dynamite, all of this analysis and breakdowns and opinions and intuition that he shares on LandryFootball.com. We welcome Chris Landry to the program once again. Chris, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, gentlemen. Excited. We've got the college football season underway and the NFL underway tonight. So all is good in the world, I would think, and hope you guys are doing well.
We're doing well. I mean, early this morning we started out talking to Mike Norvell. He was gracious enough to come on the program after, I don't know, you've been watching football forever. Have you seen a crazier finish to a ball game than that?
Well, yeah, I've seen some stuff in my time, but let's just say that's pretty, it's pretty weird. You know what's ironic? You guys wouldn't have any reason to remember this because it was a very innocuous game, but there was a game in the NFL, the Jags and the Saints. And the Saints are running that final play, they're down 7.
Right.
And, the whole lateral 12, 20 times. And they pull it off, and they go 70-some-odd yards and flip it back, toss it back, and they never work. This one did. They scored. Missed the extra point to tie the game.
Oh, and they did miss extra points. That NFL game?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, this was Jim Haslett was the coach. This is pre-Sean Payton, so this is a while. You've had some things, but, a couple of things that jumped out at me. Great you guys had Mike on. Good win for him. Florida State controlled the game. Florida State was the better team in that stadium that night. But my goodness, and you want to be positive, but the coach in me comes out, and I'm sure Mike just went on this. Guys, what a mess at the end. They had several times to put that game away and didn't. And they were, here you are, you control the game, but you're lucky to win it because you let somebody else in it. I mean, my goodness, you come up empty. You're up by 7. I know you want to score. Get up by 10, particularly when you got a team that is struggling to move the football. Go up by 10. And then, my goodness, what are you doing? I can't believe that you call that it was some sort of mistake. You don't run a toss on goal line that just increases the chance of a fumble. They had that thing, wrapped up several times, and then they almost got themselves in overtime where you don't know what would have happened. And I think he won't probably admit this. Maybe he did with you guys. I don't know. But I think he's probably exhaling. I mean, I think he's excited, but I'm thinking he's in, oh, God, because here's the thing about it. I hate to take Florida State fans down this path. What if it goes in overtime and they lose?
Yeah, they're losing.
What is the storyline then?
It's a disaster.
Because he's under the hot seat. It's difficult. You talk about lose a game that you had no business losing. They avoided that. So, look, and here's the thing. Here's the positive, though. You get it done. You got to learn from it. Learn why you win as opposed to losing. Just build off of that now, because I think when you're looking at the schedule, they've got a chance to get off to a pretty good start. Now, I didn't know the status, and we now know the status that Sam Hartman's going to be back for Wake Forest. So that game's a little bit different. But look, they've got a chance to get off to a pretty good start. And but I don't want to look ahead one at a time. But it's a good win for them. It's good to get a win. I wouldn't know that they drew it up that way or would want to do that.
No, and I do want to talk NFL with you because we didn't last week. We were lucky to have you on now 2 weeks in a row, but we didn't get to talk the NFL, and it does kickstart tonight. Rams, Bills, possible Super Bowl preview. So I definitely do want to get to that. But on that, we talked to Norvell, and he's been honest. He said, "Look," and if you watch the replay, Ward's walking in. So the idea of the play made sense. The players executed in a certain sense, but he said it. The risk reward wasn't worth it. You just needed points there. There's no reason to try something like that. Just do a sneak, even kneel at that point, get the field goal, and the game. My biggest question wasn't even that, to be honest with you, because you're up 7 with 99 yards, right? And they had one timeout, minute 20. Fine. My thing is, when it comes to the college game and you have the clock stopping after every first down, does it make any sense to run prevent? I understand you don't want to be aggressive. I get it. You don't want to give it the big play. But full-on prevent where you're rushing 3 and you're giving them first downs, to me, you're saying, here, tie the game.
Yeah, well, I think they were trying to reason for the prevent. They didn't want the mistake where some guy, and it's the quick score, because that's what happens if, you lose that. So you tend to go in with, but I think it's not all or nothing. I think you can bring some pressure, but you got to be careful with the pressure because of the quarterback's legs.
Yes.
But you're right. You can eat up a lot of yards, and you can move it downfield where you can. And look, I think what happened is quarterback Jaden Daniels for LSU just gained a lot of confidence there on that drive because he's throwing against air. I mean, there's not much there. They're dropping 8, so there's no question that aided it. But look, I mean, here's the thing on the you're right. Just go back to that. That the toss wasn't the reason the play worked. It was the handoff would have been blocked the same way. So I agree with you there, but it doesn't even get to that if you take care of business offensively. And, you could have kneeled it down. You could have delayed scoring. But that's sometimes, you're a little bit concerned you want to go up. But I think that you just got to protect it. I mean, the most important thing is ball security. And in that situation, tossing it is very dangerous. And if it would have worked, it's still dangerous and you got away with it. But all really good points. So as a coach, what do? You go back and look at that and you say, guys, we got away with one. Okay, our guys outplayed, but we screwed this up for them, and we need to be better. And because I think that it didn't cost them this game. It could have. And again, that would have been devastating loss for them. It would have been a pull a rabbit out of a hat win for LSU. Yep. A game they really didn't deserve to win, but it was a game that Florida State deserved to win. But deserving to win means you got to finish. Yep. And that's the difference between, hey, a program's getting better, it looks better, but you got to know how to finish. Yep. And I would say that Florida State didn't finish that game. Okay. LSU kind of bumbled it, but they didn't finish that game. So I'm curious to see. They're going to have an embarrassed Louisville team. DC that's struggling on the offensive line. Wake Forest, go out and get you at least 2 or maybe 3 more wins out of the next 3 and build off of that. And you can put that in the rearview mirror. But right now you got to make sure that you don't dwell on it, but you have your teaching points from it. That's the way I look at it.
Chris Landry, ChrisLandryFootball.com, our guest here on the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie, Lubitz. I don't know if you remember the band Procol Harum, but Brian Kelly was a whiter shade of pale, for sure. He could have been on the album cover of a record that contained that song. And then, for those of us that went ahead and laid the 3 with LSU, I mean, can you imagine the psychological damage to a degenerate? Chris, when you get a series of miracles like the likes of which you could never even anticipate. The Red Sea parting wasn't this big, and you're going to have a shot there to redeem yourself and maybe even win the game, and certainly a shot at a push, and then all that goes up in smoke. As an extra point attempt gets blocked. I mean, devastating loss on my end in that regard. Anything else really stand out? I mean, the top teams were in there against cupcakes, so it's difficult to formulate any kind of opinion. We did see Georgia move up to number 2 over Ohio State. Notre Dame seemed to give them more of a challenge, at least in the first half, than a lot of people anticipated in that ball game. But and the Florida Gators had a big win over Utah, which was unanticipated, as Utah was favored going to the Swamp. Anything in particular that stood out to you from what essentially was the first week, basically week one, following a week 0 of the college football season?
Georgia and Alabama, two best teams in the country. Georgia, Alabama, Alabama, Georgia. Ohio State's not far behind. I'm not worried about Ohio State's lack of explosiveness on offense because I know that that's going to turn around. They've got too many weapons. What I was impressed by is the thing that I feel that Ohio State has been the past few years is they've been a little bit not as physical, not as tough at the line of scrimmage as they normally have been. Well, they showed toughness in going down on a 6-minute drive against a physical Notre Dame team. And they won kind of a physical brawling type game, which I think is good for their psyche. I think they're in good shape. Those are the three teams, in my opinion, those are the only three teams that really can win the national championship. There's a lot of chalk in college football. Nobody surprised. Everybody says, who's could be surprised and win the national title? It never happens. It just doesn't. So I think the issue is who's the fourth best team? Is it Clemson? I think that, to me, there's a drop off a little bit, and then I think there's some really good teams. Florida, very impressed. You saw what Billy Napier's bringing, organization, toughness, and the quarterback Anthony Richardson. They don't win that game without AR, and they beat a good Utah team. Utah's not loaded with talent. Utah is physical. They're well coached. They're just sound, and so was Florida. And I don't know. I'm pretty certain and confident saying they don't win that game last year. With the way they were playing, I thought they showed mental toughness, physical toughness, confidence to win a game like that. And I'm excited to see what they'll do against Kentucky this week without Chris Rodriguez for the Wildcats. So that's kind of how I see the top of it, and a lot of good teams, but there's only those three I think that at this stage are capable of winning it unless they come back to the pack due to catastrophic injuries and such.
All right, NFL tees it up tonight for the first time. Giant matchup here. Lubie mentioned this earlier. We've been saying this. A lot of people think the Bills actually are the favorites to win the Super Bowl with odds makers at 6-1. And they go on the road to face the Rams. Now, one of the common theories, I never actually do this, Chris, because I'm fueled by, like a lot of gamblers, self-sabotage. But, there was always a theory out there that if you bet all the home dogs in the NFL all season long, regardless of point spread, but any home team that was getting points, if you did it for the entire season, you would come out ahead in the end. Maybe not by a huge amount, but, it beats the usual weekly losing and going to the graveyard to meet the bookmaker. The Rams are a home dog tonight. And it takes tremendous courage, I think, to bet some of these other home dogs. But if you were going to start this thing, you would have to start tonight with the Rams. And I believe, I find it kind of odd that they're home underdogs to the Bills. I know everybody loves the Buffalo Bills, but are the Rams being somewhat overlooked as a defending Super Bowl champion coming back with a roster that's essentially the same?
No, I don't think so. I think people respect the Rams. I think they just think that much of the Bills. Look, it's typical that the team that hosts the game, ever since we've gone to, hey, the team that won the Super Bowl will host opening night. The record overall is pretty good for the home team. They usually have a pretty good returning team, and they are at home, and there's a lot of emotion into that. But you're just playing a really good team. I'll say it this way. I think the Bills have the better roster and may have the better team this year, but the Rams are at home. So, that's kind of how I see it. I'm very curious. A little matchup I'm looking, as the Bills don't have many weaknesses, but the right side of the offensive line of the Bills, we'll see where they kind of move Aaron Donald around a little bit and kind of how they handle that. And Josh Allen's outstanding. They've got weapons. They've got an unbelievable secondary. They're very good defensively. The Bills, when you just do ranking the best rosters in the NFL, in fact, I did that very thing on LandryFootball.com. They're number one. I mean, they're right there in that same grade tier of the very top. And I did slot them number one. They just are really, really good, heading into the season, and we'll see how they can handle that health-wise. But tonight, I don't know. You're right. There's interesting, that stat of gambling. I don't gamble a whole lot, so I'm guessing the challenge is who has the discipline to do that every time, or do you get into those situations? Because I'm not a gambler. Do you get in that situation and say, I'm going to do it every time, but not this game because I really do this, and then you end up with not the percentage. So yeah, I think it's interesting. Good luck because I think this game is one that could be the Rams at home, but I do think overall, I think the Bills, believe it or not, may have a better chance overall during the season. That's how I see going in the season.
It does take a lot of courage to see the Jets over the Ravens getting however many points. Falcons winning against the Saints, Bears, and the 49ers, Lions, and the Eagles. My God. I mean, you really have to bet this on the blind if you're going to make this play. But it starts tonight. So if you're going to do it for the season, people, play the Rams tonight, which I kind of like the Rams at home in this ball game. Anyway, I think they're kind of, being a little bit dismissed. I think they were like 11 or 12 to 1 to win the Super Bowl again, and it struck me their front office did a good job in the offseason keeping that championship roster together.
Well, they did, and again, I don't think it has anything to do with the Rams. It has to do with the immense respect for the Bills.
Yeah.
I mean, the Rams are probably playing anybody else in the league. They're favorites, So I think people think that they're one of the favorites in the NFC, but I think also people think that the AFC is stronger at the top, and the team that is considered at the top by most people are the Bills. So I think that line is all about the Bills and nothing about the Rams, who I think is going to be favored in most games that they play this year.
Chris,
so
when it comes to NFC, the Rams, by most people's estimation, are not the favorite. Now, I don't know what's changed in the last month. We've had some off-the-field stuff, but a lot of people presume the Bucs would just come right back. Super Bowl champions 2 years ago, were right in the mix last year. But my thing is, and it's not just Brady leaving for 11 days, because a lot of people have said he's come back rejuvenated. He's going to be focused. He's Tom Brady. He's not doing this if he's not focused. My question is, the one thing that bothers Brady his entire career is offensive line issues. Now, they've had upwards of 3 guys banged up, and he has been very frustrated by the offensive line play. How do you see that affecting them, not only early, but throughout the season?
I think it could affect them a lot. I think it's a big question mark. In fact, it is the question mark for them because you mentioned that offensive line play is always important. Run game, pass protection. But as regard to this, pass protection is always important. When you've got an immobile quarterback like Tom Brady, then it is even that much more important. In other words, the pass protection is more important for him than it would be for Lamar Jackson, obviously. But I think Tom would be on the need a clean pocket more than any other quarterback in the league. So, now he gets the ball out quickly. They can work the short pass game. You can run the football successfully. All those things can slow down pass rush, and you've got from the neck up, the as good as you've ever had. So I think it could affect it. And quite frankly, I'm back and forth on, Bucs or Saints in that division because I think the Bucs they've got Brady, but it's the offensive line question, and I think the Saints probably have as good or better of an overall roster, but it's do you get the consistency out of Jameis Winston? So I think it's going to be interesting, and I think it's going to determine whether the Bucs are a real serious threat or not. I think the NFC is lacking that elite team. They don't have a Bills. They don't have a Chiefs. Heck, they don't even have a team that's as complete of a roster as the Chargers. And so I think you could make the case in terms of ranking rosters that you have to go down a couple of teams, maybe 3 teams before you get to the best team in the NFC and roster-wise. And I don't know who that is. I think there's some teams with some question marks that if they get answered in the positive, Bucs offensive line, the Saints quarterback, the Packers defense. I mean, who's going to emerge? Because there's not that favorite in the NFC like we see it in the AFC.
Any football fan that hasn't logged on to LandryFootball.com, do yourself a favor and repent and make amends for your foolishness because this is the man, Chris Landry. Dynamite stuff as always, Chris. Always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks so much for sharing time with us. We always enjoy having you on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Enjoy the full-fledged onslaught of football this weekend.
Yes.
All right. Going to be a lot of fun. All right. Thanks so much, Chris. Chris Landry, ladies and gentlemen. Guy knows his stuff, man.
He's so great when it comes to football.
And well-versed in both college and the pros. So that was interesting.